Hey, it's Jay, and welcome back to MCU Reviewed. This time we're going to be looking at the second TV show to hit Disney Plus from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And we're going to be looking at the first episode called New World Order. Just like WandaVision, I'm going to be giving a very brief plot synopsis so you guys can experience it for yourself, and mainly focus on my theories on how the rest of the show is going to be impacted, as well as the overall MCU going forward. So without further ado, let's get started. Basically, this first episode is going to really focus on more backstory for Bucky and Sam, which I think is a really great direction that these TV shows are going, because it's giving more credence to characters that you otherwise might have forgotten about, since they never really got that much development like than, say, the original six. And that's why WandaVision was so great, and that's why I feel like this show is going to be amazing too. But basically, Sam is really struggling about the responsibility of taking on the mantle of Captain America after Old Man Steve hands him the shield at the end of Endgame. And basically, he has this moral conflict with himself and ultimately decides that he cannot take on that mantle. There's only one person who can symbolize Captain America like that, and that is, of course, Steve Rogers. So he ultimately surrenders the shield to the Smithsonian to be put in the memoriam for Steve Rogers at the Smithsonian. He kind of does freelance work. He works with the Air Force to retrieve Captain Vasant, who is kidnapped by Batroc. If you guys remember Batroc from Winter Soldier, there's that epic fight on the ship bridge with Cap and the other guy who was like, I thought you were more than a shield. That guy. So he actually comes back. So it's great that we're seeing past characters. That was something that they said was going to happen in the show. I'm really happy that it's happening like this. He also kind of befriends this man named Joaquin Torres, who's also with the Air Force, and gives him a brief synopsis as to what his main mission is. He's with a group called LAF, and they're investigating this group called Flag Smashers, and basically these people are very against post-blip returnees. They thought that the world was way better when the blip actually happened, when half the world was decimated. They thought the world was much better, so they're trying to plunge the world back into blip status. So these guys aren't to be trifled with. At the same time, we see that Bucky is still having nightmares about his Winter Soldier affairs. Even though they got the words out of his head, you'll never get those memories out of his head of all the bad things he did under the control of Hydra. And this one involves him taking over, just doing a regular mission and actually taking out an innocent bystander who was just at the wrong place at the wrong time. This will play a part in the episode a little later. He goes to a therapist and tells her that pretty much everything's fine, but she knows he's lying and threatens to tell the government that he's still not doing okay, because remember, he's still under oath of the Sokovia Accords, and of course he was on the wrong side to the government in Civil War, so in order to be pardoned, he has to make amends with all of the bad he did. And he said he has been making amends. He detained a Hydra agent who he helped get elected, I guess through some very illegal means. So that's this whole step of making amends. And he finally surrenders his phone to the therapist. I don't know why I blanked out on that, because she has to see it, and it's shown that he has no contacts. He's not in contact with anybody. He's actually ignoring messages from Sam. So he's really just has no contact with anybody. He's like, I just want to be alone. I've been fighting for right and wrong for 100 years now, and I just want a life of peace. But the therapist is like, don't shut out Sam in fear of thinking he's going to drag you into a fight. He's pretty much the only connection you have left, because Bucky really didn't have any other connection to any other Avengers except for Sam, because, of course he was investigating where Bucky went in the aftermath of Winter Soldier, and so on. But, and so he kind of lives his life. He stops his neighbor, which I just got to find out the name, because it's a pretty complicated name to remember. Yuri Nakajima, who is his neighbor, and someone who kind of befriends. There's a big fight that breaks out over putting stuff in his garbage can with another neighbor of his, and he kind of stops it and offers dinner to him. And Nakajima is like, you should go out with Lee, who's one of the waitresses at the restaurant they're at, because there's kind of some chemistry going on there. And so I think Nakajima knows that Bucky's alone, and he just wants something for him, so he's like, go for it. Try dating again. I know he's 100, but nobody needs to know that. And as they're eating, Nakajima just breaks down because his son was killed when he was studying abroad, and it just really hurts him. And Bucky's a little sus about this, and he's, he just has to go. Basically, now we get a look into Sam's life. It's really cool how they alternate between Sam and Bucky. So now Sam is going to visit his sister, who survived the blip and was forced to raise 2 kids and try to keep the family business afloat during the blip. And it's struggling a lot. It's like a fishing boat, kind of like a bubblegum shrimp from Forrest Gump. And Sam's like, do not sell this boat. This isn't what Dad would have wanted. This is our legacy. This is the Wilson family legacy. I'm not going to let you sell this boat. Please let me help, because his sister's gung-ho about him not helping. And so Sam's like, you gotta take out a loan. I can make this work. I feel like Sam probably thought that his Avenger status might help them get that loan. So Sam and his sister go to the bank, and they deny their loan because they don't have enough finances to cover said loan. And even Sam's superhero status doesn't even get them any type of perk in any situation like that. So Sam is forced to try to fix the boat on his own. His sister pulls him aside and shows him a TV broadcast, and I'll get to what that TV broadcast is after we check back in with Bucky. So Bucky ends up going on this date with Lee, and it seems to be going great, even though he's dodging a lot of questions about his past, because what is he going to say? And as Lee brings up Nakajima and how he broke down the night before, she reveals that his son was killed and everything like that, and that's a really big burden on him, and Bucky just had to get up and walk out of the date and see Nakajima for himself, and what he sees behind Nakajima when he knocks on his apartment door is the man who was killed innocently in one of Winter Soldier's missions. So he flees. It just can't bring himself to admit to him that he's the one who killed him. And it's just really tough that even though Bucky seems to be going in the right direction, he's pardoned, his Winter Soldier, moniker isn't really chasing him anymore, it still is, even though people aren't calling him that. It was a really tough scene to watch. And so, checking back with Sam, that radio broadcast shows that the government has now declared that the world has found their new Captain America, and we see some unknown man in Cap's outfit and holding Cap's shield. And this, of course, is infuriating Sam, because no one even bothered to talk it through with him. I also forgot to mention that Torres went to Switzerland to see what these Flag Smashers are about, and he blends in with them by putting on the mask of the Flag Smashers, and he unknowingly gets himself involved in a robbery, and while he tries to take out one of the Flag Smashers, he is punched across the street with superhuman strength. So we have no idea why these guys are the way they are. And that was the first episode of Falcon and Winter Soldier, and man, what a great start. I am so thrilled that these characters are getting backstories, because, characters like Sam, like Bucky, they were thrown into origin films of other heroes, so we never really got true backstories. We never got to see some of Bucky's other missions. Of course we saw him take out the Starks, but we never really saw him do much else in terms of Winter Soldier stuff. I know Natasha brought up a mission that she was on with Bucky, shooting her through her partner, but we never really got to see any more missions, so it was really cool to see that too. But man, Bucky is still just the most tragic character in the MCU. I can say that confidently, because again, even though Shuri and Wakanda took out the words from his head, he still is plagued by these memories of all the bad things he had to do under Hydra's control, and it's just so tough seeing his emotion of, do I tell Nakajima that I killed his son? And you could see the inner monologue chugging, and he finally is just like, I forgot to pay you for lunch, and he just storms off. It's rough, and I can understand him not wanting to get involved with Sam in fear of getting dragged into a fight, because, like he said, he's been fighting his whole life, whether it was for the army, whether it was for Winter Soldier, whether it was once he joined Cap's side in Civil War, and then to have that piece of the words not being there, and then immediately being dragged into the battle for Earth in Infinity War, and then being blipped, and then being brought back to life only to fight again in Endgame. I think Bucky just wants to stop fighting. And it's really great to see Sam's family life, how he has a sister and 2 nephews. It's really, really cool at how passionate he is as well about his family's fishing business. I think that the character development was definitely the strongest part of this episode, more so than the action or story itself. Just the character growth and Sam's struggle to should I take this mantle of Captain America or should I leave it with the person who it belongs to, which is Steve. And I think that's really great. And you can really see the anger in Sam's face when this nobody gets the shield that is a symbol to the country, to the world at this point. It's just, it infuriated me too, because it's like, I mean, I knew that the U.S. agent was going to be, which of course, if you guys didn't know, that is the U.S. agent, a character from the comics. Even though I knew the U.S. agent was going to be a thing in this show, it's still just annoying as hell to see him just take up this moniker because he embodies what Captain America stands for when nobody knows who he is. And nobody even, went through Sam, who owned the shield in the first place. Nobody went through anybody. It's just very frustrating. I forgot to mention that Don Cheadle is also in this show as, Rhodey, and he talks with Sam and Steve's memorial section of the Smithsonian about how, even though everyone's back from the blip and everything, they're still scattered, they're still divided, and everyone is still very, very shaky about what's going on. So really great to see Rhodey there too. I'm glad that he's not getting ignored, because that was my biggest question, because the original 6 got their ends to their stories, some of them, and he's like the only one left from like phase 1 that didn't get much, had like a big question mark, so I'm happy he's getting his own show and he's getting some more screen time here as well. But now let's get into my theories as to what I think is going to happen in this show, how I think it's going to impact the overall MCU. Of course, these are all theories because this is the first episode and we have to wait till this Friday to see what happens next. But I really do think that the Flag Smashers are working with the U.S. agent. And why do I think that? I think the U.S. agent manipulated the government into thinking that he could be the next Captain America to take attention off the Flag Smashers because now they have their symbol of hope back. The world has their symbol of hope back. And I think that's going to take attention off of these Flag Smashers who, again, want to plunge the world back into a desolate world when Thanos snapped his fingers and wiped out half the population. I think that that's something that we're going to discover throughout the show. I'm really hoping that Sam and Bucky can just take this guy out because you just want to punch this guy in the face. From when we saw his face reveal, I was like, who is this fucking nub? Like, he looks like a derp. It's really annoying, actually. You kind of just want to reach through the screen and strangle him. So I really hope he gets what's coming to him. No Zemo or Sharon in this first episode, so I'm really excited to see how they play a part in this show. I'm hoping they come soon. Maybe even next episode, who knows. But I think that Bucky is going to finally realize that, kind of like Bruce, he's going to be like, okay, I understand that I've been fighting all this time, but I need to use my skills with my super soldier status and my new vibranium arm. I need to utilize that for the good of this country. I've done so much bad. I need to make amends, like his therapist is saying, by doing good. So I think that Bucky's going to, at the end of the show, maybe retire, or maybe actually stay and fight for maybe a couple future movies. Who knows? But I'm really excited to see that. But I'm really hyped to see the backstory of these Flag Smashers, because we only saw them very, very briefly in this episode. And I know they're obviously going to get delved into more, but I'm so curious to see how they got this superhuman strength, because when he first kicked the first police officer before he beat the shit out of Torres, I was like, whoa. I know that sometimes these characters can kick pretty hard in these movies, but that's not normal kicking. That's not like if Clint kicked you. That's like if Steve kicked you. So I want to see where they got this super soldier experimentation from. Is there a secret organization that's, recreating the Manhattan Project? I don't know, but it's going to be really interesting to see. Now, in terms of how this is going to impact future MCU films, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure right now. It's tough to get a read on that after just the first episode, when there's really no development on who these Flag Smashers are, if they're going to ultimately reach their goal of sending them back to the blip. I doubt it, but, it's just a theory. Whether or not U.S. agent is going to realize that he's an idiot for trying to take up such a powerful and, sentimental symbol to the country and to the world. There's a lot of question marks, so I can't really give my theories as to what I think is going to happen until I get a couple more bits of episode in there. But I do think that maybe Zemo has something to do with it. All I know is that I'm pretty sure Zemo's going to try to take control of Bucky again, because from the trailer there's that shot of Bucky unloading the gun and dropping the bullets. I think Zemo's going to try and say the words again and have Winter Soldier kill him, because, he did try to kill himself in Civil War before T'Challa stopped him. So I'm thinking that he's going to try to use the words to get Bucky to shoot him, and Bucky's going to pretend to do so, but before he shoots, just unload it in front of him and be like, I don't do that anymore. Those words don't work on me. So I really hope that comes true, because that would be so badass. But again, I can't give a rating on the show yet because the show hasn't fully done. There's 6 episodes, so 6 weeks from now, of course, I'll give my final rating for the show. But, the action. I forgot to say the action. The scene where Sam is rescuing Vasant is amazing, because the whole thing is Batroc is trying to reach the Syrian border, because then the U.S. legally cannot interfere, and therefore Vasant would be their prisoner. And so Sam had to really think on his feet, even with a damaged suit. And of course, it was nice to see Red Wing again. Completely forgot to mention that. Red Wing, his little pet. Just a really, really solid first episode. These shows are really, really showing that they're not just low-budget TV shows. Kevin Feige has confirmed that these all have the budget of the movies. So, and they're really proving it. They're proving their spot here in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and they're a welcome addition. I'm super happy that they're able to expand these stories through Disney+, which again, if you're a huge MCU fan, Star Wars fan, and Disney fan, I highly recommend downloading it. It's cheap, and it's got a plethora of content for you to watch. And it even is throwing Fox titles on that they acquired. But I'm super excited for the next episode of Falcon and Winter Soldier. Make sure you guys stay tuned this week for the second episode of Falcon and Winter Soldier, as well as the next installment of the Star Wars Chronicle, which I will do next week, because I kind of still have a little bit more production to do in terms of this intro, and I'm planning a video for next week as well that I can't talk about just yet. So Clone Wars will continue next week in the Star Wars Chronicle. So I hope you guys are looking forward to that. But please check out Falcon Winter Soldier, especially if you're a Sam or Bucky fan. You're really going to enjoy it. I can guarantee that. So yeah, that's all I really have to say. Make sure you like, share, comment, subscribe. All that stuff really helps me out. And until next time, guys, that's a wrap.